Good afternoon. I am thrilled that you get to meet Mary McCauley today. Mary McCauley is a realtor north of Boston, a woman I met during COVID in our office, and I got to know her through COVID. We had a daily call with our team lead because we had to figure out how to help our clients during this time. And we found ourselves discussing really important things about relationships and supporting people, whether it's delivering toilet paper, because if I don't know if you remember, we ran out of that. So during COVID. But Mary and another Mary came forward to me and said, would you like to do a podcast together? And I didn't know what a podcast was. So the three Marys started a podcast called Married to Real Estate. And we had a really, really good time. We did about 50 episodes when kind of our energy went away. So I got to know Mary McCauley really, really well, and I got to respect her as a realtor and just basically her integrity going forward and her honesty and her willingness and ability to talk about the changes that happen inside as you're working with people. So I hope you enjoy hearing Mary McCauley and her experience as being a realtor, how she cares for her clients, and the qualities that we look for in realtors. Thanks, everybody. Welcome to Real Estate Connections Podcast, where relationships open doors. I'm Mary Foerster, and housing is a universal need. We are often thinking about our existing housing, our future housing, that possibly of family members. This is where you're going to hear the issues and the people who are working the issues every day. Please hit subscribe and like if you find this podcast helpful to you. Thank you. Well, welcome to Real Estate Connections Podcast. Today is a first. Today we're having our very first realtor talk about how they do business by referral, and particularly talk about how their clients can be expected to be treated by a professional realtor. And so I've invited my pal, Mary McCauley, to talk to us because one, I have referred her business, and two, she refers business all the time through her network. And I have worked with her. Maybe since COVID, right? Since COVID.
Right.
So Mary and I met during COVID. We were at the same brokerage, and then we became podcast partners, which I'll talk about a little bit in the introduction. So meet Mary McCauley, one of my favorite realtors, one of my favorite people who reach out into their community to be significant in the community, more than just real estate, but to be meaningful and to have a meaningful role with people. So welcome, Mary. I'm so glad to see you.
Thank you, Mary. Thanks for having me.
We have the same first name, don't we?
You do.
There's a reason for that.
Yes.
So I asked Mary to talk about today what happens when she gets a phone call from somebody who says, I want to buy a house or I want to sell my house. And so, Mary, if you would walk us through, take one, buyer or seller, however you prefer,
Sure.
take one and walk us through what happens and how you make this experience the best possible experience, not only for your client, but also for you, because you're carrying a lot of the weight as well. So, okay, ding-a-ling-a-ling, Mary.
Oh, I love this role playing, Mary. Hello.
Hello.
No, so my first question usually is, tell me about your situation, because everybody's situation is different. And, I like to start there because it gets people talking, and you want your client to talk to you. You want them to feel comfortable. You want them to give you all the information rather than sort of asking yes or no questions. How many bedrooms, that comes later. If they're buyers, say, I like that because, we do get into that in our initial conversation, but then we always have to meet, so I kind of pre-qualify them on either side of the transaction, whether they're listing or they're buying. And then depending on their experience, you spend more time with, say, a first-time home buyer because they don't know anything about the process, and they're looking to you to be the trusted advisor and the one that's going to guide them through this minefield, basically, of the biggest financial transaction of most people's lives.
When you say pre-qualify, what does that mean?
When I say that, it's just getting to know them, who are the decision makers, who's buying the house, what are they looking for, what's, their five most important things. And that's good with buyers to then come back later. So say you've shown them five houses and they had said a fireplace was their number one
Mm.
feature they had to have. And all the houses they liked didn't have a fireplace, so they really didn't care, so it's good to have something to go back to, just sort of a baseline of an understanding so that we're all on the same page. I'm there to help them. I want to find their dream home or, the thing that's best for the house that's best for their family, if that's what they're, or for them, and fits all their needs. And, I want them to be happy. I want my clients to be happy and be like, this wasn't as tough as everyone said it was. I want it to be an easy, seamless, smooth process. And I think that comes with a lot of communication and a lot of, not trying to get ahead of things, anticipating what could go wrong, and just letting them know the next steps. I try never to leave a conversation without saying, okay, now what's coming next is, this, or this, after the home inspection, then we're going to, in Massachusetts, then you go to purchase and sale. So what's going to happen at that point and when, the deposit money is due, and just kind of walk them through the steps so that they don't have to worry. I just really want them to worry about packing, right? I don't
Exactly.
want them to worry about anything else.
Exactly. Exactly. In terms of what's important.
Yeah, they really do. And I like to say to my clients, it's just as important to see what you don't want as much as to see what you do.
Mhm.
And sometimes that's an easier process, like, whether it's the flow of the house or like I said, they think they want a big backyard until they realize they have to mow it or
Mhm.
that long driveway that they have to shovel in New England.
Indeed, and we've had a lot of shoveling lately, haven't we?
Oh, haven't we? Florida
Talk
sounds nice.
yeah, talk about, somebody who calls you and wants to sell their house. "I want to sell my house." "When did you last sell your house? When did you last sell a house?" "Well, 30 years ago." Talk about that person.
Right. So with listings, I like to try to get in front of them as soon as possible and have that listing appointment. I had a recent one that was a referral from another agent on the South Shore, and they want to sell their house up here and buy something south of Boston. And so they asked me if I would help them list it. And one of the things that was so interesting about this is that I was the fifth realtor that they interviewed.
Wow.
I know. I know. So, I tend to overdo and go the extra mile and think big, anyway, and everything I do. And so with this particular listing, I put together a binder, which I always do, but this was just a little bit up a notch, because I knew I was competing for this. And I wanted to do a good job for this agent that was referring it to me, hopefully open the door for more referrals. But I went through and, pulled all of the deed, the documents, the public record, all the things that you do, the previous listing, some permits, flagged all the things that maybe this homeowner wasn't aware of. He
Mhm.
had only been in the house a couple of years and he had relocated here from out of the country and for a job. And now his job is 100% remote. So he wants to live, closer to friends and family. And he didn't know. He said to me afterwards, first of all, he wanted to keep the binder. But then when he picked me, he said that I had told him things that no other agent had gone
Mm,
over,
mhm.
and I had explained things. I took the time. I was there about an hour. I try to keep it an hour or less, on those listing appointments. Everyone's time is valuable. And it can be overload. So I don't like to overload with too much. But I left him the documents to look at. He did not sign it right away, and that was okay. I knew, like I said, I was the fifth one and he was going to make a decision. And it was interesting because I did say to him, when we meet, you can decide if you want to work with me and I'll decide if I want to work with you. Not
Excellent.
every client realtor is a match
Mhm.
on either side.
And what did he say to that?
I think, he didn't really respond. He just said, "Oh, okay." But I think it just kind of put him on notice, that I was interviewing him just as much as he was interviewing me. And I do believe that is, an important business model to have as a realtor. You don't have to take every client. There are some that are just looking and will never buy. And, there are some that feel that, they've hired you and therefore they can treat you a certain way. I think you have to have your standards. It's very
Very good.
important.
Reminds me that many years ago when I started to be a realtor, I remember an NAR statistic that said, what do people want in a realtor? And the first thing they want is trust, right? So your package, your binder, goes beyond even trust. It goes, into diligence and diligent. The second thing is responsiveness, and I know that we 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 have lots of questions and anxiety, and we start worrying about something over the night. What if this happens? And to know that they can contact their realtor the next day and ask a question. So that was responsiveness. And the third quality was competence. And so we all begin at the beginning, right?
Right.
So, and I know you began working for other realtors, isn't that right?
I did. I got my license and joined a team as a transaction coordinator. And I
Perfect.
lasted about 8 months before I said, I want to be a realtor. I don't want to be, behind the scenes. And I did have a coach at the time. I entered the coaching program. And then I actually ended up coaching agents for about a year and a half,
Mm-hmm.
as well as running my own business. And then currently I'm a mentor for several of the new agents in the office. I care about that things are done right, correctly. I don't want anyone to do it wrong for compliance reasons or
Mm-hmm.
make a mistake. And so I enjoy that, training them and helping them be the best agent they can be.
Yes, and I think also we at that point help them be the best agent they can be is bringing success along and sharing success. There's kind of an old image of realtors being really clawing, and protecting. And my sense, ever since I became a realtor, was the generosity of other realtors to teach us about something we don't know yet. And that's the other appeal of being a realtor is there's always something new.
But yeah,
So
I think there's always something new. And I
yeah,
also feel that it's not one size fits all. I mean, someone that chooses to work with me may not choose to work with, you know, Timmy in the office next door to me.
right.
We all have our people, we all have our tribes. And I think that makes a difference. And I think there is enough business to go around. I'm not going to, step on someone to, get around them and get over them.
Another thing I know you do is you get trained a lot in assessing how people communicate, how people process information. And I know you do that because I've observed you do that. Could you describe a little bit about, what that training does for you and does for the client?
So, one thing that I discovered a few years ago through community of realtors across the globe was that something called the DISC, and
Uh,
it's interesting. It's interesting that I never really thought about that. Now, whether you instinctually you can figure out, sort of who's the numbers person and who is the hugger and, who's wants just a party and who's very direct. And that's sort of the different four disc styles. And it's been very interesting because it's a good thing to be mindful of. I've gotten myself into trouble thinking that someone was, one type and they truly were another one. And I really didn't manage that in the end. I took ownership of it. I didn't manage that right away because they were sort of a little bit of both. We're all four, but one or two seem to always of those personality styles come to
mhm,
the top.
mhm.
But I think that it helps you communicate better with your client if you understand what's really important to them and sort of also how they learn or what they're, some people need spreadsheets and need, pie charts and things in order to really feel comfortable with the decision. And others just, like you and you guys, have coffee at Starbucks and that's the
Mhm,
best thing ever and you're instant best friends
mhm.
and they want to work with you for those reasons too. And that's enough for them.
Exactly. And then figuring out if there's a couple involved, figuring out who is what and how the dynamics play out, because those dynamics will play out when there's stress associated with decision making, and actually signing, making final signatures, et cetera, negotiating. So Yeah, that's amazing.
It's
And
true. Yeah.
look at you saying though.
It's true.
Yes.
Not every couple is on the same page,
Hmm.
and you can't just assume that they are. I had a situation recently where they just were not on the same page as of what they wanted in a house, and they both had a different vision of what this next house would look like,
Hmm.
and it really didn't match up, and they had to kind of step away and take some time. And it was good that they discovered that themselves, that they weren't on the same page. And then now we're back to looking at things, looking at properties that match both of their vision.
They
So
came through
yeah,
the
sometimes,
process. Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And so it is, it's important to have a process and be aware that, it doesn't always go smoothly and it's not always what you think
Hmm.
when you start out.
So, Mary, what do you do when you have somebody that you want to refer to another agent outside the area? Let's say out of a different state, because mass laws are fairly unique in some ways. But how do you prepare your client for the referral, and how do you find them a really good agent that will have the same kind of standards that you have?
Sure. I'm fortunate to be part of a group of realtors, like I said, from across the globe. We met on Zoom during COVID, and it's been 6 years of Monday through Friday calls. We've had in-person events. So I tend not to, refer an agent that I don't personally know. Anyone that I refer to, I've had dinner with or drinks or sat in a conference with for 5 hours or something. I have a relationship with them. I don't feel like a good steward of my client's relationship if I don't know who I'm referring them to.
Right.
So I don't do it randomly. I definitely vet that process because it's a reflection on me, like anything. If you recommend a landscaper or a painter and they don't do a good job, it's a reflection on you. So I take that very seriously.
Hmm. Good. And then how do you prepare your client that you're referring, your person here or wherever they are, referring them?
So I think if someone's asking me for a referral, I'm lucky enough to have the kind of relationship where they know, like, and trust me, which we know,
Mhm.
is sort of that buzz phrase, but it's very important. And so then they trust me to connect them with someone that will take good care of them, like I would. And that's kind of how I think about it.
Excellent. So referral is the longer you're in this business, and really, hopefully, any business, the longer you're in, the more your client base is by referral, and it works to everybody's advantage. I mean, I can think of several ways, but if you would talk about what it means to you to get a referral and what it means to you to give a referral.
Yeah, well, I'll start with what it means for me to receive a referral. That's really lucky of me. I mean, it's fortunate because that means that someone trusted me
Mhm.
to take care of these friends or family of theirs, in a way that they would, want to be taken care of as well, or that I did a good job for them. And so they're referring their cousin to me. That happened recently. And they were like, yeah, my cousin said you did such a great job. And they were so happy. Now, I've reached out to that cousin before, to follow up and sent them stuff. And I haven't heard anything back from them. So I really didn't know. I mean, I assumed they were, happy because we were at the closing table and they were happy. But, to find out, 6 months or almost 9 months later that they're referring me and saying that I did such a good job for them, really makes my heart sing
Mhm.
because that's what you want. I mean,
Mhm.
it is a relationship business. I love, when they say it's a contact sport, because contacts and who you build a relationship with matters.
Mm. Spoken like a true Patriots fan. I think you're a Patriots fan, are you?
I am a Patriots fan.
Exactly. Exactly. I recently made a referral for a couple that I know, and they divulged they thought that their agent didn't serve them very well, and so I had to ask them, What is it? What is it that you were concerned about?" And they said they were the first person latched onto, and I said, "Were they referred? Was this person referred to you?" She said, "No, no, just somebody I came across." And that's another number I like to throw around is 86% of people, hire the first agent they meet. And, I'm kind of like that. I'm the back of the envelope person, oh yeah, yeah, it feels right. It feels right. But as you were describing, you only get to know people over time and discussion and figuring out what's important to them. So anyway, when I went to get them an agent to refer them, I thought a lot about their personality styles and kind of who they were, and it worked. It worked real, and it feels really good to work, doesn't
It
it?
really does feel good when you make the right match. It's like
It
a
does.
matchmaker, you
Yeah.
know?
Yenta.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I so appreciate your experience and all this, and I know as I get more local referrals, I'll be talking to you as well. But Mary, talk to us a little bit about the market you're in. What is your market? Are there any trends that you're seeing? I know that we are hearing different things from different parts of the country. You're very connected through the James Shaw
Yeah.
Group, which is tremendous, awesome, awesome providers across the country. But what's happening in your world?
Well, we're lucky enough to be in New England where real estate is highly valued. We don't see those lows that, say, a Florida or more rural areas will see. Our property values are really strong here and continue to be. We have, a lack of housing. It's a seller's market. There was all this talk about, oh, it's going to be turn around and be a buyer's market and, that sort of thing. But that's not true. We've seen a little bit more days on market, but we're also coming out of our slower season, some of that seasonal, from sort of November to February. It's our slower season, where we're in spring market now. So we're seeing more inventory, which is great because there are a lot of buyers out there. Interest rates play a role a little bit. But we're seeing a lot more buyers,
Good.
just as many, as last year, if not more.
Hmm. But
But
there's
yeah,
more
so
to
my area
buy.
is Merrimack Valley.
Yeah.
It's Westford, Chelmsford. I go about an hour from Westford, I would say. I mean, I sold something in Somerville, Framingham, so
Hmm.
I do. But if it's more than an hour, I just don't feel that I can service my clients as well, like for a listing in that area. And I'm also licensed in New Hampshire. So I've started to do a little bit New Hampshire, although I feel a little bit like a rookie in New Hampshire. It's different. But, coming up the curve. So the more I do, the
Yes.
better I'll be. I mean, real estate in its framework is the same. It's just the process in New Hampshire is a little bit different. They go right to purchase and sale. There's no
Right.
offer.
Hmm.
They don't use attorneys. They use title companies, which is fine. I like an attorney. I'm, sort of trained that way. And Massachusetts is an attorney state. So, you can still have an attorney. So that's good. I like to have that just, to protect my
Hmm.
clients.
Hmm. You're one of 3 states that is an attorney state. Do you realize that? And that New Hampshire is really with the majority, believe it or not,
Right. And it's backwards
47.
to me. No, it's funny. It's just where you
It's
learn
what you're used
first.
to. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, as a realtor from Northern Virginia, I've heard of different
Right.
people moving up to Boston to sell and having it's just too foreign, just too difficult to do, to get used to that process. But
Yeah.
anyway,
When my parents, yeah.
there are
Oh,
pros and
sorry.
cons. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, my parents sold their house in South Carolina, and that was a whole different process. I was sort of their advisor since I'm in real estate, but it was it was not the same at all. They had
Hmm.
pages and pages of things that have to be fixed by the seller that before even the process moves along. It's really really interesting. So,
So
um,
to your point, every state is different. And I would imagine even parts of states like New York City versus upstate New York, would be very, very different, very more intense,
yeah, I mean, I
different
think, the
rules.
state,
Yes.
yeah, the state mandates the forms and some of that, but how you actually conduct business
Hmm.
can vary a little bit within those, laws.
Hmm. Yeah, you're not driving to your appointments in Manhattan, that's for sure.
No, you're probably not.
Not indeed. Okay, so one of my early episodes here was a discussion with Tony Cardinelli, who is a
Love
local
Tony.
lender. Yeah, and Mary is a big fan of Tony Cardinelli. So, Mary, as I shared with you before, I asked Tony, "How do you get a really good lender?" And he said to me, "Mary, you find a really good realtor." And so, Mary, how do you find a really good realtor?
Oh, I think that's where referral is so important. It's who you know and like and trust, like I mentioned before. I think that your reputation says a lot. And, online, people start their search online. That was eye opening, like some high percentage of everyone starts their search for a realtor even online. They
Hmm.
don't necessarily use the one that they used 10 years ago to buy their house. I thought that was interesting stats. It's relationships. You
Hmm.
hope that people will come back to you over and over again and refer their friends and family to you because you gave them such a good experience.
Exactly. And that's your ticket. That's the trust. You get to do that first step faster, just to, and so your intake, your discussion, you're getting to know people, they'll find out that yes, my cousin said this person is really good and they were right. And once you make that leap of trust, I think that that's a much smoother relationship going forward. Doesn't mean that it's without trouble, but it means that you can connect and you can even get through different troubles together more easily because you've jumped that trust hurdle, which is really helpful. Hmm.
Yep. I think it is because it does take time to build trust.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be, hard to do
Mm-hmm.
when you're trying to sell someone's house or help them buy something.
Mm. And one last area I wanted to talk with you about, because I think it really is important, and I see it in you tremendously, is you're reaching out into the community and being of service to the community. And what stands out for me is you're very, very dedicated to veterans, as I remember,
Mhm.
but not only, but that's one area that you're really strong with. And could you discuss a little bit about why that's important to you, and why it would be important for many professionals to reach out to their communities?
Sure. I think it goes back to relationship building. I think also, if you do something you love, you'll find like-minded people and people that will want to work with you. If they get to know you outside of what you do, I think that just deepens the bonds of a relationship.
Hmm.
I love the Westford community. That's where I raise my kids. That's where I work. So I am heavily involved. You and I are both involved in several things overlapping.
Hmm.
We both like to volunteer and we're service heart oriented. And I think that shows through in everything you do. There is a quote I love that is, how you do anything is how you do everything. And I really think that's true.
Well, how about we'll end on that wisdom? And thank you so much, Mary. And I hope you have a very profitable, successful, rewarding spring season as it gets into the summer. And
Thank you,
thank you
Mary. Thanks for
again.
having me on.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope you found this conversation useful to you and your real estate goals. You'll find the contact information for our guests and any links they recommend you have in the show notes. And should we be able to help you identify some strong real estate professionals in your area, drop us a note at info@realestateconnectionspodcast.com. Thanks again, and bye for now.